But getting into the whole geopolitical realm, Mark Koernke in studio with us. Mark, good to have you here.
Hey, nice to have you, Alex. You know what? It's always fun to be down here because down here in Texas, we know it's the big state and it's got big hearts and we've got big hospitality. That's exactly what we've seen all the while we've been here.
We're down here going crazy, man.
And getting hot, too, because, guys, you can fry out on the pavement right now. Not quite as much as Arizona, but it's getting close there. So we brought eggs, bacon, and if it's a little warmer here after 1, we'll do just fine. But, yeah, it's been a great time while we've been here. Appreciate it. And I want to say thank you to all the people who have made it possible because, you know, we've been flying on the cuff. We haven't really set a schedule. Everybody that's needed us here, we've taken care of it. So,
Mark, you're here in person. What has it been like in your life when you woke up to the New World Order in the late 80s and now, you know, being one of the leaders of the refounding of the Patriot community, exploding in the 90s, being sent to prison on trumped-up charges with the police on their own squad car running off the road? I mean, it's been quite a saga for you, and I think it's just beginning.
Well, we've actually been, we've been very, very busy, as you know, and as you get into this, you find out there's so much more to do, and that's exciting in of itself because you get a chance to meet all the people that are out there, and there's a lot of people, like you said, that have been in this before us that passed the torch on, and we're now doing the job that they did at one time. In fact, they didn't have the tools we have. Look at the great trinkets we have to work with that they get the word out. In the past, remember, it used to be, would you like to see a mimeograph?
I've got a UN document, State Department document 7277.
Right, exactly. And it'd be the one thing that they had to work with. Today, we have virtually every media tool at our disposal that our enemy hoped to manipulate and control.
And our enemy was in the old mindset where they could go to a world governance conference and where all these world leaders and Walter Cronkite could call for world government. Now we can go get those old tapes and string 20 of them together with prime ministers and leaders calling for it and say, oh, that doesn't exist. Or we can, through Judicial Watch, go sue and get North American Union documents. In the past, we did that, but you had to hand them out. Now we can give them to millions.
Right, and the other fascinating thing is don't forget that while Walter was telling you all about certain things from one direction, he's also the right hand of Satan, in his own words.
Can you believe he said that?
Well, again, you know, we remember, wasn't it with Bohemian Grove, as I recall? Who was the voice in the background for so many years?
Walter Cronkite.
So let's see.
Don't care.
So do you think when people use certain words, especially when you see a statement made like that, even if he was trying to work off the cuff, that inventory, that process that he used that became a public statement, was sitting somewhere in his subconscious in some way. He didn't just pull that out of his back pocket. Usually that represents or demonstrates a mindset, a track, an ideology, a school of thought. And when you capture it like that, they figure it's a nano moment that'll never be captured and brought back again. After all, it's feudal resistance.
Because that was done before the internet age.
That's right.
So now we brought it back from then to the future.
And that's one of the things for a lot of your listeners right now. There's a lot of new people that are out there that are listening maybe for the first time. But let's say that they've gotten to the internet because they're retired. Now, you're listening out there right now and you have a collection of beta tapes or VHS tapes, or you were in an industry where you even saved part of what you did reel to reel. There are
old satellite feeds.
That's right. There are old files sitting there where people are listening, and when you hear what you hear on the programming like this during the breaks or when we come back,
it hits a tumbler.
Right. We need your help, too, because you may have the rest of what we don't have. And remember that if you can access and work together with us, we're going to get it out, and now it won't be just that nanobyte back in 1964. Now it's the truth brought forward to the year 2008. Think of what a tool that is.
And it's happening more and more.
That's right. So it's changing the dynamics of the battlefield, which is what we've been doing. The other side, well, let's put it this way. I walk all over the place. I go all over the place. And I also make a point of doing something everybody listening should do. Do not hesitate to speak. Silence and inaction
is consent.
That's right. It is action. That's the best way to describe it. Remember, the lack of motion is not an inaction. The lack of motion is one of many choices. If you fail to move, your enemy can either two situations. You can fail, you can stop the motion so that you allow your enemy to move into a position where you can attack them better, or if you fail to move and they're on the offensive, you simply become enveloped and overrun. Well, in this case, the whole idea, there's a lot of people out there with all this cool technology that they may have used in the past, and they're thinking, well, it's obsolete. I've got MP3, No. You have sound bites and you have bits of information and evidence that incriminate and demonstrate over and over again the true culpability of an enemy that we've been facing off and successfully working against. Think about what we've done in the last 20 years. Think about what we've done in the last 10 years. And again, look at the personalities that are coming forward, just like you've described in the program here, that are actually able to lever many, many other people. Now, I'm going to say this. Alex, you got a lot of people. If you have one personality that comes forward, consider this. It's kind of like when government says, well, I got 4 letters in the mail, and people say, well, that's not significant. Wrong. The old formula was if they got 4 letters on a subject, they knew that so many 100,000 people were actually thinking the same thoughts. In every situation, just like with these personalities, if you're affecting 1 or 2 people that will more than willingly come forward and express their position, that means that there are hundreds, if not thousands of others that, given that final push, become part of the wave that supports your effort. And that's what's happening right now. That's what you're on the edge of. Most everybody can see this. They sense it, they feel it, they smell it, they touch it, they taste it. And that's where we are with why everybody must speak out. Don't worry about the character that was ridiculing you a year and a half ago. You know what he does now? He does this, Alex. He looks down at the ground. He'll look over anywhere, but he will not look at you when you're speaking.
Well, that
it.
is the phenomenon now.
Yes.
But not just looking down. So many people where we planted those seeds. You know, in farming, you might have seeds from 2 years ago, 10 years ago, 6 years ago that are called volunteers. They sprout up later, or they wash up underneath something and then wash back out. And that's the same thing. We've planted billions of seeds. Millions sprouted before. Now millions more are sprouting. And it's almost like we're putting, in the info war, landmines out. But these landmines don't kill people. They unlock
knock down walls.
Exactly, in people's minds. And so now we have littered everything with these landmines. And it is unlocking people's minds. It is, the tumblers are unlocking, and they're remembering everything we told them, everything we said, and it's all happening.
Exactly. And the most important thing is this is part of what is the first phase. For years I've argued it's not like you just walk up a series of steps. Each tier, first of all, you got to acknowledge the idea something's different, something's wrong with your environment. And so that's like pulling yourself up to the next step with virtually every ounce of energy you have in your body. You think, now I'm at the plateau where I can see everything. And what you see first is the next step. You realize as you've now opened your eyes, there's something else going on.
Mark, what do you think we're going to see happen in the next 6 months, next year, next 2 years unfolding? I mean, give us your projection.
Well, actually, again, we have the sliding timeline. Number one is we have Koernke Bush, the second, the best president Mexico has probably ever had and will. We have perhaps a person who's looking to create a duchy out of Texas and the southwestern United States if he would just let the timeline go the way it is. However, as again we're seeing, there are obviously enough people involved in government that are concerned with the idea that somebody wants to be expeditionary before he leaves office. Not of his own accord. Well, George Bush, if he starts a war with Iran, isn't doing it on his own accord. He's being told by somebody else to do this. As is traditionally the case, if he gets us into a conflict overseas, what's the argument? Well, we're already in it. What did we hear with Iraq? Well, now that we're in it, we can't back out. Now, getting us into Iran, especially being a whack, 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 isn't he a lame duck? That would be one option, but here's the problem. What if whack, 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 instead of being a lame duck, he becomes a lion and decides to grab hold of the meat and stick? And that's the most realistic scenario. Between a combination of an attack inside the United States, a 9/11 type scenario, which everybody's been talking about, and an attack on Iran, which of course would be a war of aggression, just like the first war of aggression we've been in, with Iraq. You're going to see a situation where there would be greater and greater response from outside the United States and the international community. Now, there's two attitudes, and we've already heard this, and you're seeing this. We need to take Americans to the international court. Now, I understand that sounds good.
That sets the precedent for
it.
Well, it's the same thing in England. They have all this tyranny, and then the EU keeps ruling for liberty, but inside the EU, it's total tyranny. They're only setting the precedent in people's minds that that's the court of justice.
And then all of a sudden, we go to a higher tier, alien to the United States, outside American jurisprudence,